of application. We learned how to create a workspace, and we learned how to create application, and we discussed about the Angular architecture and basic flow. We discussed about application structure also. Application structure means what files and folders are present. We discussed, and we learned how Angular works, the basic architecture behind it. So values, services, factories, components, these all things. We learned about how the flow works in the background. Application starts with which file? Main.ts. Application compiling starts with which file? Main.ts. Main.ts will load another file. Which one? App module. All the library that you want for a project, you need to keep in which file? App module. After that, app module will undergo a process called as bootstrapping. It will undergo a process called bootstrapping. What bootstrapping will do? Usually what bootstrapping is going to do? Bootstrapping is going to convert the static DOM into dynamic DOM. After the bootstrapping process finished, the index page will come. Actually, index page will contain direct data. No, index page will not contain direct data. Data is present and data is coming from a component. Which component? App component directly. So whatever you see on index page, suppose this is browser. So this is local host. Our project is running on which location? 4200. And here, whatever you are watching currently is coming from a component. Whatever you are watching here is coming from a component. So we have to design components, and through components we need to design an application. So application is a collection of what? Components. Not only components, lot of things will be there. We will learn one by one. So first, today what we are going to see is how to create our own components, how we can design our own components, how to develop a web application using components. So this is not our own component. Already some component is there. We used it. We customized it. But now we are going to learn in Angular, we are going to discuss components. So Angular components. This is the major concept in Angular. First, you need to understand components. Actually, Angular components. So concept of components, I given an overview, but detailedly we will see now. Technically, what is a component? So components are building blocks for Angular application. Components are building blocks for Angular application. That means every application is built by using a combination of what? Components. So components are considered as building blocks for Angular application. Actually, every component comprises of three basic things: presentation, styles, and every component contains logic. Every component contains three things: presentation, styles, and logic. Component comprises of three basic things. So presentation is designed by using what? HTML. Styles are defined by using CSS, and logic is defined by using TypeScript, which is transcompiled into JavaScript. But our primary language is TypeScript only. So a component contains three basic things: the presentation, the logic, and styles. So presentation, logic, and styles. So presentation is designed by using HTML, styles are defined by using CSS, and logic. Logic is defined by using TypeScript. Now we will see how to design these components, how to create components. So actually, suppose when you start Angular, already I told you, and you should know that we will have only one startup page, index.html. Now in this index.html, suppose this is index.html. Let's take example of one real-time example we will see. Suppose this is Netflix. Netflix is a single page application. It is a single page application. We can design single page applications with React or Angular like technologies. So here in the Netflix, there are a lot of components here. You can see here in Netflix, we have a component. Top is header. There is a component called register. For example, this is the component. This is register component. This is register component. Now we want to design this for our project. So like this we want to design. To create this, we don't directly design in index page. Actually what we do, so we will first create one component. This component name will be some register component. This register component contains the design, some register something. It will contain some design. Now what we need to do, this we need to put in the index page. We need to keep this in the index page. So we need to design a component separately, and we need to put that component in index page. This is the work we have to do. So we don't directly design in index page. We have to separately create one component. And this component contains three parts. The design comes from HTML. The effects comes from CSS, and logic comes from TypeScript. Now, actually, to design a component with design, logic, and styles, there are so many techniques actually. That means there are various techniques of designing a component. There are various techniques of designing a component. Depending on situation, requirements, we can use any technique. Actually, we have two techniques, high level. One technique is you can create a component manually. That is one. Second technique is you can create a component using CLI commands. Using CLI commands, this technique is called scaffolding. Using CLI commands called scaffolding. Actually, scaffolding is a very popular concept in software development. In your technologies like Java, .NET, everywhere, this scaffolding concept will be there. For example, you people are learning some technologies like Java or .NET. In those technologies, if you added one new file, like a class file or some file, have you seen that file contains some ready-made code already? Have you seen such things? That means you added some file and some code is already present. You need to just do some changes. Am I right? If you have seen that, that is called scaffolding. That is called scaffolding. Scaffolding means developer will tell what he wants. According to that, the software will write everything. And it will give the outline structure. Now developer can do customizations. He can make changes. Scaffolding is a very popular concept in every technology. And actually it was introduced by a technology called Ruby. I hope you heard there is a software technology called Ruby, just like JSP, PHP, Ruby on Rails. Ruby is a technology. It introduced the concept called scaffolding. And scaffolding is very easy for developers to write code because half code it will write and rest of the code we will customize according to requirements. That is advantage of scaffolding. So here you can add components in two ways. You manually write or you just tell Angular, it will create. We will see both techniques. We will see what is problem in scaffolding. In scaffolding, it will generate code and some code is not necessary. That means some code will be automatically generated which is not required for you. Then it becomes heavy on components. That's the reason in that situation, developer prefers creating a component manual. If he thinks that all code, whatever generated, he have to use and required, then he will better go with scaffold. I will show you both techniques, how to create manual and how to create by using scaffolding. And one more option is there. Actually, so this is designing a component. Actually, so component structure can be designed in two ways. Component structure can be designed in two ways. One is inline documentation by using inline documentation. Another one is code behind documentation. Component structure can be designed in two ways, inline documentation and code behind documentation. I told you that every component contains three parts. What are those three parts? Presentation, styles, and logic. You can put all three in one file. That is called inline. That means you can write the HTML part, you can write the styles, and you can write the logic all in one file. That mechanism is called as inline. Inline documentation means styles and HTML and logic all are present in one file. What is good, what is bad? If you write everything in one file, then number of requests will decrease. If number of requests decrease, page will load immediately. That means page load time will decrease. I hope you learned in HTML. So we can write styles inside HTML page. Am I right? We can write styles in separate file. Right? What is difference? What is advantage? If you write styles in a separate file, we can use across all pages. But what is drawback if you write styles in a separate file? Now number of requests for page increases. One request for HTML, another request for CSS. If number of requests increase, page load time increase. That is the reason unnecessarily we don't use an external file. Sometimes we write inside the HTML by using embedded technique, right? That means depending on the situation, if you write everything in one file, what is advantage? It will reduce the number of requests and page will load fast. But what is drawback if you write everything in one file? Reusability issues will come. Extensibility issues will come. Extensibility means regular changes you have to do, update. Separation issues will come. If everything is combined at one place, then separation issues will be there. But if you are not looking for reusability, you are not concerned about extending it, you designed a simple component, it will have a stable functionality, you don't need to make regular changes, then better to go with which technique? Inline documentation technique. If you need regular extensions, changes, separation, then better go with code behind. In code behind technique, markup is designed in HTML. Styles are designed in CSS. Logic is designed in TS. 3 files will be there. If you design everything in one file, that is which technique? Inline. Inline documentation. So we will see both. So what is inline? So inline documentation. Inline documentation technique allows you to configure component design, styles and logic all in one file. Inline documentation technique allows you to configure component design, styles and logic all in one file. So what is advantage? Inline technique reduces the number of requests and improves the page load time. Inline technique reduces the number of requests and improves the page load time. So problem is inline technique is not good for reusability, extensibility, testability. So it is not good for reusability, extensibility and testability. Inline technique is not good for all this. So if you want with a stable functionality any particular component and you don't need regular extensions into it, then better you can go with inline. Let's see how to design it. Now remember, first we are learning manually how to create a component using inline technique. So let's do that. So manually adding a component using which technique? Inline. Manually adding a component using inline technique. This is what we are going to see first. So for that we need to learn so many important points. Actually, Technically, component means what? Technically, component means in OOP concept. We learned. In OOP concept, contracts means what? Interfaces. Templates means what? Abstract classes. And components means what? Classes. So technically, component is a TypeScript class. Technically, component is a TypeScript class. That means if you have to design a component, then what you have to do? So you need to add a class, TypeScript class. That means technically component is a TypeScript class. So what you have to do? We need to write like this. Class and some name. I will give the name as Netflix register. Am I right? That is the class name. I am giving the class. Now, if you write like this, it is an ordinary TypeScript class. How Angular thinks that it is a component? Understood? That means you created a class. Now it is an ordinary TypeScript class. How Angular treats it as a component class? Actually, so component class is defined by using a directive or you call marker. By using a directive or marker at the net component. This is the directive. Component class is defined by using a directive or marker called at the net component. So that means you designed a class, but it is still not a component. How it make it like a component? How to tell Angular that this is not an ordinary class, it is a component class? Then what we do is, we put a marker for that class. Like this we have to write. At the net component, that means syntax we have to write like this. At the net component. After that we have to write class. What is it? Netflix register. Then it becomes a component class. Understood? But what happens is, people have an habit of writing like this. Anything is okay. That is actually marker. Marker means it should start with, just for convenience sake, what people do every time they write this. Because if I don't use semicolon, it is continuing now. Right? It is continuing. That means actually we write before this word class. Before the word class, but people have an habit of cleanly, separately writing it. So it is a part of class word only, right? That means you have to write like this. At the net component, class, Netflix register. Now, this becomes a component class. If anybody asked you in interviews, if anybody asked you, what is at the net component? What is at the net component? You should say, technically, it is a directive. It is a directive. Or you can also call it as a marker. But marker is not good word. Technical word is directive. And what is a directive? Another question is, what is a directive? What is the meaning of a directive? The answer is nothing but directive comprises of metadata about your component. Understood? It contains metadata about your component which is given to the compiler. That means who have to understand that your class is a component? compiler have to understand that your class is a component. That means we have to tell the compiler that this class is not an ordinary class. It is what class? Component class. For that, we have to use a directive. And what is the directive? Component. So, every component class must start with component. So, it tells Angular compiler that this is not an ordinary class. This is a component class. Now, here so many points are there. Now, directly, when I write like this, you can see, when I write like this, it will ask, what is this?
Directive.
Where it is? You are using a directive. In order to use anything from a library, first you have to import, right? Without importing, how you are writing anything is not possible, right? That means actually component directive, component directive is present in @Angular/core library. So you know what to do now. It is present in @Angular core library. So what you have to do, first step, syntactically now you know what to do. First what? Import what? Component. From where? @Angular/core. After that, we have to use @component. Understood? Got it? So class, what is that name? Netflix register. Like this we can define. So first we have to import a component. After importing a component only, you can use that component. Right? Now very important is, okay, up to this you written, but compiler says error. Why it says error? Because as per the rules of component, every component should return some presentation. Understood? Component contains what? Styles, logic, and presentation. And in that, styles are not mandatory, but presentation compulsory. Every component must have a presentation. Now, if I write like this, it will say error. Why? Because as per the rules of component, so every component must return a markup. Every component must return a markup, right? Then how you can end? And one more point is how you access this component and use in a page. How you will access this component and use in a HTML page. Can a HTML page use class name directly? No. Then HTML allows only elements, na? Elements. So every component must have a selector. So every component must return a markup. Another one, every component must return markup, just markup. And every component must have a selector. What is the purpose of selector? Which is required to import and use component in any page. Which is required to import and use component in any page. It is compulsory. Anywhere you want to use the component, it needs a selector. So your component is incomplete if it is not defined with selector and markup. How to define that? For that we have to write like this. Syntactically, now we need to write like this. So now I have to write import. What is it first? Component. Component from where? Angular core. Angular/core from here. And @what? component. This component will have some options. This component will have options. That is object, na? Object means object contains key and value. And what is the key? Component have lot of keys. In that, one mandatory is what? Selector. And what should be the selector name? How to access the component? So every selector must have the prefix app. Every selector must have the prefix app. It should have the prefix app. So it is pre-programmed like that. That means compiler cannot recognize if it is not having the prefix app. So if anybody asks, can I change this? Of course, you can change anything according to your requirement, but you need to learn its settings. Means you need to know the architecture of Angular settings. There you can change. That at the end I will give you information about that. As of now, every component selector prefix must be app. After app, hyphen. What is the name? Register. Register. This is how we define the selectors, right? That is how we need to define the selector. And remember, don't use any special characters or spaces, only hyphens. Only hyphens. Actually, what happens is, in our general library, internally, it will be actually app register. This case is called camel case. This camel case is converted into presentation will be like this. Understood? That is the reason it is mandatory to follow these rules. Otherwise, it shows errors. Already we learned now, editor config will be there and TS config will be there. Their rules are configured. Without following that, you cannot handle. So selector is okay, fine. Next, comma, because it's an object, right? After selector, what is compulsory? Markup is compulsory. Now here we have two options. Currently we are using which documentation? Inline or code behind? Inline. In that case, markup must be inside the same file. Then we have to use template. Template. Template indicates what the markup to present, what you want to present. That means the template defines what you want to present. Here you can write what you want to present. Anything, whatever you want, you can present here. Understood? The better I will give any selector you can give, right? You can write any markup you want directly. Suppose you are using code behind technique. Code behind technique means this markup is present in another file. If it is present in another file, then we use template URL. Template URL will tell the location, from which location we need to bring. Currently, template means here itself. So every component can have these two things. Remember, these two are compulsory. Styles optional. If you want, you can put styles also. How to put the styles? We have to write styles. Why it is yes? Remember, in computer programming, wherever plural word comes, it is a collection. The plural word is used means it is a collection. That means multiple. That means styles is an array. In that array, what you can do, you can apply multiple styles. Border, background, so many styles, alignments, everything you can define. So, and every style is defined like an object. Every style is written like an object. That means you need to configure an object. So that means what you have to do, suppose we need to say color. Color, what is the color value? Red. And very important here, we need to configure style. Suppose, so I am giving here style for, this is what actually string. I will write there later, I will show you. Here just roughly I am giving, but generally when you write styles, we also have selectors, am I right? For heading or for which one you want, you need to define that, right? And these all actually defined in a string type. That's a lengthy process. I will show you later, okay? Just I am giving syntax here. Later, the original example I will give. Here you can define the styles like this. But styles, as of now, you just keep it like an array, that is enough. That means it's an array. It's a collection of styles. Now, but this is not mandatory. Mandatory is what? Selector. Another one is template. Template. These two are compulsory. After that, now you can write your class. But one more thing you forgot here, because one more thing is you are writing a class and this class need to be accessed outside this file and used. Then it should be marked with export now. Because we are using module systems, right? Export class. What is that name? Netflix what? Register. This is how we design. And remember, any logic is there, you can write here. Suppose button click, drop down change, such methods, functions we can write there. The logic we will see later how to write that. Initially, this is the basic structure of a component. Understood all the parts? Right? Technically, component is a class. But this class is not understandable to Angular. To make Angular understand about the class, we need to use a directive. What is the directive? At the net component. And every directive have two basic parts. One is selector, another one template. These are important things to define. Let's do this. Let's go to our project now. I will go to the project here. Yeah. Now here I am going to component here. You see all the components need to be maintained in a folder called app. Go to app folder, and here, because all components will mess up, we will create separate folder. In app, I am creating a separate folder called components. Okay. I created a folder called components. In that, I will put all the components. Okay. Select that folder and add a new TypeScript file. I am adding a TypeScript file, Netflix -register .component.ts. .component.ts. Remember, extension is .ts only. Component is not extension. Component is what? Suffix. It is suffix. Extension is .ts. But remember, actually in older versions, it is not mandatory to have the word component. But from the version 11 onwards, they made it mandatory. Compulsory. Right? Earlier, we don't need to do that. Suffix component is not required. But now, for every component, when you add, the component must have what? The suffix name. What is the suffix name? Component. Component.ts. Component.ts. So we are adding this file. Okay. Now here, what we have to do first, you saw the logic. First, import. Import what? Component. From which location? Angular core. Angular core, that is the library. After that, export class. What is it? Netflix register. Okay. Now how to make it as a component at the net? Component. Here we need two things. One is what? Selector. Selector. And selector name. App what? Register. Another one we need. What is it? Template. And here template I will use backtick. Backtick means you can use embedded expressions or anything. I will show you embedded expressions also. But as of now, we will create here. So I am giving multiple lines. According to the design, what they have a paragraph. They have a paragraph at the top. Let's see. Ready to watch. This component we want to design. So ready to watch, enter. This is the paragraph they are having. Okay. After the paragraph, they have this container I will give, div. And inside the div, they have a text box. Input type is equal to, it is an email box. Input type is equal to email. And in that placeholder, placeholders, they given what? email address. After that, they given a button. And in that button, actually icons and all, I will tell you. Initially, we are designing with what we have in Angular. Later, we will add effects, right? Now, what they are saying, get started, and this symbol there is present. Just I am writing that greater than symbol, but that's not good. That's what we will learn, how to improve this code and make it perfect. As of now, this is ready. Component is ready. And this component currently don't have any functionality, button clicks, nothing are there. Later we can add that functionality. I will tell you how to add. Then you can write all the logic part here, properties, methods, and everything. As of now, component is ready. But how you added this component? We added this component manually. Now Angular cannot recognize. Why? Because Angular can load only the library which is present in flow, you know, na? First, which file it will start? Main.ts. After main.ts, which file? App module.ts. So any component, any service, any functionality you want to use in Angular, it must be imported in app module. It is compulsory to be inside which location? App module. So after creating component, go to app module. In app module, first you have to import your component. Import our component name. From which location we have to import? We have a separate folder called /. In that app, which one? Components. In components, what? Netflix register component. From here, what is the class name? Class name is Netflix register. We have to import that component here. After importing the component, remember, it is just imported, but your component is not ready to load. To load the component, all the components must be defined in declarations. You see ng module. Ng module is what? Ng module is Angular module. It is a directive. It is a directive for which one? App module. That means it tells what are the components to use. It tells what are the components to use. In this, currently in declarations, we have only one component. Which component? App component. That means the component you created is not available. That means every component that you create, it must be registered in which location? Declarations. Then only that component will load. Otherwise, the component will not load. So we have to put here, it is an array, comma, we have to add another one. What is it? Netflix register. Don't delete the previous one, because you need all components in a application. If you delete the previous one, then and you are trying to use it somewhere else, then issues will come. So just you put your component that you added. So what is the next rule after designing component? What is the next rule after designing component? Every component must be registered in the declarations. Declarations of what file? app.module.ts. It's compulsory. Every module must be registered in the declarations of this location. Otherwise, your module, your component will not load. If component will not load, it will not work, right? So this is the component we are defining. So see here what we need to do in the declarations. In the declarations array, what we have to do? We need to define which component name? Netflix register. Like this we are defined, right? This is generally how we configure. Actually, people have an habit of giving the suffix word component also, class name. But class name is not compulsory. You can give any name for the class. Okay, Netflix register, it is ready. Now, after that, one more point is there. You see currently application is starting with which component? App component. Along with this, you want register also, then you can put both. No, I want only register, not this app component. So every time when we are practicing, initially which component we design, that component we will put in Bootstrap. Understood? That means remove app component from Bootstrap. Our application should start with which component? Netflix register. That means change the Bootstrap also. That means next step, what we have to do is, so every application starts with multiple components, right? Starts with multiple components. So you have to define your component. You have to define your component in Bootstrap. Understood? In Bootstrap of which file? app.module.ts. So you have to define that. That means now in Bootstrap means start. In Bootstrap, you have to mention your component. Your component is what? Netflix register. This is the component you need to define. Netflix register is the component you need to configure. So lot of work is there, right? We have to add a component, write the logic for the component, and we have to go to app module. Two places you have to do changes. One is declarations, another one is Bootstrap. Now in Bootstrap you said it is starting with which file? Index Netflix register. Then in index page also same must be there. That means now what you have to do? Go to which location? Index.html. Go to index.html. In body section, you need to keep this selector. What is the selector name? App register. That is the selector name, na? You have to use that app register in the body. That is what you have to do. Remember, if Bootstrap have two components, those two must be here. That means what you defined in Bootstrap should match with the index. Note, this is very, very important. Many times people forget giving that component selector in index. Then what is, and sometimes in Bootstrap is different and in index is different. It will not work. So it is important that means index.html must have exactly the same components defined in Bootstrap. Understood? In Bootstrap of which one? App module.ts. Compulsory. If there are two, those two must be here. If there is only one must be here. And it should match. That means here there is another component, here selector is another component, it will not work. It should match exactly. So one more work is there for us. We need to go, because we change it to Netflix, but in index HTML, which one is there? App root will be there. By default, you can see that, right? That means let's go to Netflix register, we changed here. Now let's go to index HTML. Index HTML is present in this location. This is index HTML. In index HTML, app root is there. You observe here, currently when I open our project, it shows error empty. Let's go to inspect and let's go to console and see. When you go to the console, you will see error. You can see the error. Error is nothing but app register did not match. Did not match with whom? Did not match with Bootstrap. In Bootstrap, you are doing something. Here you are doing something. So it is not matching. So what you have to do now, let's change this, remove app root, and here we have to keep what? App register. Now it is ready. Now you can see your project starts with exactly what you have mentioned. So once I recompile and reload, and it will get that. That means our component is there, but it is not having all the design and effects. Na? What you designed, it is there. We have a paragraph and we have an email, another one button. Suppose we want to give some effects. Some effects we want to manually give. So let's do that. Let's go here now. In the Netflix component, TS, here we need to add some styles. Actually, these two we will keep in another div. Understood? Another div. These two I am keeping in a div, paragraph and that design. And for this div, I will put a class. You know how to apply styles. Huh? I will write a class. Suppose I will give as register container. Okay. Register container is the class. Now I need to apply effects. Remember, it is inline technique. Inline technique means styles also here only. Then we have to put here, see, two selectors, two attributes. One is selector, another one template. After that, comma, here we have to define styles. Styles is an array. How you know it is an array or not? Actually, you can right click and go to definition. Understood? When you go to definition, it will tell you its type. It is what type? String array. Then you know how to write it, right? Then string array means you have to put string. Na? In that, what is the class name? Class name is what? Register hyphen component. Component is the selector. Na? Container. Yeah. Register what? Container. Register container. For that, what effects you want? This is class selector. Na? Class selector means dot, right? We have to use dot. Class selectors are defined with dot. Dot register container. What effects you want for it? So here we need to put the effects. What are the effects you need to define for it? What are the effects we need to define? I want to apply, what is it? Text align. I am using text align. Text align. What is the text alignment you want? Suppose center, like this. This is all one file, one location. Just separated I am giving. This is the register component, how you need to define. This is text align as what? Center. That is how we need to configure. Now you see, you save this, whatever changes you have done, it will be updated into this location. And you can see here it is showing some option. What is it? Actually, this is object. So we have what is the text align? It is an object type. Na? Text align colon center. Okay. Then it will be centered. Some problem. One more extra is there. Text align is centered. Now it will be centered. But to keep center, some more changes we need to do. What is it? Register container. Actually, it is not container. Na? Container means we will use actual, so many effects we need to give. Not only this, actually what effects we need to give? We need to give display. You know display? Display we have to add what? Flex. Okay, na? And another one we need to add. Display flex is one option. We are keeping display flex. Okay, what is the next effect? So justify content, justify content. So this is a string type. All string type are important. This also display flex. So justify content. Justify content what center. Yeah, display flex and justify content center. So content. Okay. Yeah. One more here. Register container. What effect we are having? Somewhere we missed. Height width also we need because it is having lot of content. I will do one thing. Means this is first I will just show you here. We have for paragraph text align. Text align is what center. Where is this? Styles are applied only. Selector. I will just give this. Red. Text align. Another attribute is text align. Text align. Text align is what? Center. No. Actually, these attributes are important. Actually, here text align. Say where? What is problem? No, this should work. Text align. Acha, this is we are writing styles right? So when we are writing styles, what are the effects we need to define is comma. I am using semicolon, right? I am writing comma by mistake. Actually, it is what? Semi. Here we are, I am thinking this as an JavaScript object I am writing. It is a style object. Style object is separated with what? Semicolon, right? It will be fine. Okay. I am in the mind of JavaScript object. I am giving comma because it's style object. Style object should be semicolon. Okay, right. Now, if you want another effect, what we have to use another style, what we have to write for which container? Register what? Container. Register container. What effects we want? Suppose display. Display which effect we want? Flex. So another semicolon. What is this? Justify content. Justify content what? Center. All this is enough, right? These all effect we need to give. Okay. Yeah. That's okay. Why? Because we have to add, we used flex now, right? Then when we use flex, what should happen is all must be in one container. this paragraph, this div, all must be in one container if you use dflex. Understood? That is one div I am giving. In that div, we will put this one. Okay. Because when you use display flex, all must be in one container. Okay. That is the style we need to apply. Then it will keep everything in center. Okay. Now, this color for paragraph not required. Only one option we will give. What is it? Register container will be kept to center. Okay. Now, what should happen? This appearance is not satisfied. Appearance you have to give more. What we have to do? We will add one more button, colors and effects. We need to achieve this exactly in which way? Like Netflix. If you have to achieve exactly in Netflix, currently I'm just giving only one style, right? What style I am giving? Display as flex, justify content as center. Only this I am giving. Remember, vertically also you want center means we have to add one more option. What is it? Align items. Align items what? Center. And we need to add a height. Height is how many pixels? Suppose I am giving 400 pixel. Then it will give vertically also center. Understood? But how to give an appearance like Netflix? That is because of Bootstrap. They are using which effects? Bootstrap. If you want exactly like Netflix, then you have to apply Bootstrap. Is Bootstrap available in our project? No. We have to install Bootstrap. After installing Bootstrap, we can apply effects. Let's achieve that, right? Exactly Netflix like screen we have to achieve. Let's see how to do that. First, this part we will make, right? I will give you in the note. So this is example. In example, first step, what you have to do? Go to which folder? App folder. And add what? Components folder. Components folder. Next, add a new file. New file into components. Into components. What is that file name? We have to use Netflix. Netflix-register.component.ts. I will give the code here. This is the code. Let me copy that entire code, which already we written manually. So this is the code. After that, you need to do some more changes. What are the changes? After you do this, third step, go to which location? app.module.ts. In these two things you need to do. What are those? One is in declarations. In declarations, you have to add which one? Netflix register. Another in Bootstrap. In Bootstrap also you need to keep Netflix register. And fourth, index.html. You have to go to index.html. There in the body, you have to add app register. This is what we have to do. This is the example we designed. Okay. Now, it is still not having the complete appearance because we are writing our own styles. To give the complete perfect appearance, now I will give you another option. Set up Bootstrap. Bootstrap for Angular project. For your Angular project, you need to set up Bootstrap. Okay. How to set up Bootstrap for Angular project? First point, if you set Bootstrap, have you learned Bootstrap? No. Then I will do one thing. Initially I will show you. You can easily handle that. You can try. I will do one thing. One weekend session I will conduct a Bootstrap related one workshop. If you attend that workshop, then you will get a clarity on Bootstrap so that you can easily handle. Because in real world projects, we need Bootstrap compulsory. Along with your HTML, JavaScript, you should learn Bootstrap actually. If you learn Bootstrap, it's okay. Otherwise, I will take a small workshop on weekend then you can get clarity and you can start using it. Okay. Right here, I will give. So how to set up Bootstrap is first open your workspace location in terminal. You know how to open your workspace location in terminal. It is Angular workspace na? Yes. This location, you have to run the following commands. Actually, you have to run command npm install bootstrap and save. One more, npm install bootstrap icons and save. These two you have to do. You have to install bootstrap and bootstrap icons. Actually, bootstrap is compulsory. Without bootstrap, you can't design applications in the real world. Okay. Now you install bootstrap and bootstrap icons. Let's do. Go to project workspace. Actually, already in one terminal, my project is running. You can open another terminal. Here plus is there. Na? You click, another terminal will open. Here you have to run the commands. What are those? npm install what? Bootstrap and save. So bootstrap save. One more you need to do. Bootstrap icons. Another one, npm install bootstrap icons and save. Bootstrap and bootstrap icons. Once bootstrap and bootstrap icons are saved, means we are installing. Now one more work is there. We need to make this bootstrap available to all components. Then you remembered I told you about a file called styles.css. Styles.css contains global styles. That means the styles which you want to use in every component, you have to keep them here. So in this styles.css file, you have to import import. You can import CSS files. Where the files are present, I hope you know all files installed. We discussed there will be a folder called node modules. So .. it comes to src. Again .. it comes to shopping. Again .. here we see node modules. Understood? Because currently our component style CSS is in which folder? App. We have to come out of app. If you come out of app, src will come. You have to come out of src. Then project will come. Come out of the project. Then node modules will come. Node modules is the location in workspace. Na? Right. In node modules, which one? Bootstrap. In bootstrap, dist. In dist, CSS. In CSS, there will be a file called bootstrap.css. This is the file we have to link. One more file we have to link. Another one, import. And .. node modules, bootstrap icons in that font, in that bootstrap icons.css. These two files you have to link in styles.css. So go to app styles.css. Styles.css. So it is styles.css directly. Huh? In styles.css, these two you have to import. Understood? Now your project is ready to use Bootstrap. Your project is ready to use Bootstrap. Interestingly, what happens suddenly, you will see some changes happened in your project. Changes are nothing but little bit font style will change. Little bit font style will change. Now Bootstrap is ready. If Bootstrap is ready, we can apply directly Bootstrap classes. When you import this, Bootstrap is ready. Once Bootstrap is ready, you can apply classes. How? Let's go to the design. Here, this is Netflix component. In Netflix component, in the design here, what you can do is, see, for this container, we use a class called input group. After that, for this email, we put a class called form control. These are ready-made Bootstrap classes. For button, we put a class called BTN danger. Then automatically here, instead of that symbol, you put a span. In the span, actually, we put Bootstrap icon, class called BI chevron right will be there. Chevron right. And you can see that is symbol name. That is Bootstrap symbol name. And you can see it is there. Understood? Now input group will be, we can use input group LG. LG means large. Then you can see little size increases. And actually what they have done, this container have BG dark and the text white. Then you can see automatically the appearance will change like this. That is Bootstrap. If we install Bootstrap, then it's very simple. We don't need much styles to write. Of course, we return the styles. What styles we return? Display center, horizontally and vertical. Right? But other effects are defined by using just Bootstrap. That's the reason we cannot say that I know Angular, but I don't know Bootstrap. Or CSS, HTML. That doesn't satisfy in interviews. Right? Because Angular is a very advanced technology in building effective user interfaces in the modern web. And if you say, I know Angular but not CSS, JavaScript, CSS or Bootstrap like things, nobody will take you as a developer. Your Angular skills are incomplete. You are not fit as a real world project developer in Angular if you are not good enough in CSS and Bootstrap. Compulsory. So not only for Angular, React, Angular, all these requires very strong knowledge on Bootstrap CSS. Right? Because we can't waste time in designing all these. We have to simplify. Without Bootstrap, if I have to design like this, so much time. We need to add lot of effects. And software development is not talent show. It is business. Right? They don't care about how much hard work you done. They just care whether you achieved it, that functional perfectly or not. That's the reason we have to use lot of such things in handling. Actually, so its height is set to certain things. How much we set height? So 400. So here actually the height I define some 600. Then you can see it fill up the screen. Right? And you can add. Now we will see complete Netflix screen design. I will tell you how to design. I just created only one component. What is that component? Register. What is the specialty here is reusability. For example, see now, suppose same register again I want. Then we don't need to design again. In index page, we have to add it one more time. Understood? App register. One more time you add that and automatically one more will come here. That means you are adding multiple times. Here currently only one is there because in the startup we mentioned only one, right? Actually what we do is here we design another, means one more design. That means actually our index is starting with how many pages? Only one. We can create one more and in that we can put that register. Then you can get multiple times. I will show you that in the next concept. You will see that. That means now we will able to design screen like this. Understood? Like this we can design. You may be thinking like, why exactly like this it is not coming? Same style. Because they are not using Bootstrap. Netflix people are not using Bootstrap. Netflix people have their own CSS. They are using that. Actually, Netflix people use a CSS called Material MUI. MUI. They use MUI. Material UI. They use that. That is the reason their buttons are different, but approach is same. Our we are using which one? Bootstrap. Netflix people use MUI. I will show you. This is MUI. This is MUI. This is the Material UI library. You can see this is Material UI. You can see Netflix is using it. Understood? Netflix is the customer of this MUI. It is using it. Not only Netflix, Amazon, Netflix, Spotify, NASA, all these people are the customers of that MUI. They use that MUI. In MUI, what happens is button looks rectangle like, square like, different appearance. Button is same. Colors are same. Colors are little brighter, darker. That is the reason 100% you can't achieve exactly how it is, because they use different library. And this library is not every time free. You have to buy it. Understood? You have to purchase the library. Bootstrap is free. Bootstrap is free. In companies, what they do, they purchase this and they will say that use it. Then what we have to do, we have to apply those classes. Then according to that, exact appearance will come. Right? You don't worry about that. Initially, you just need to design by using what? Bootstrap. Now, if I want to create, that means we will try to create this complete screen now. Understood? This initial screen we will try to create. In the background, what it is having? Background image. That means actually here, how many components are there? I will show you. See here, this is one component. Understood? That is one component. That is background index component. On that, this is header. This is actually main. Understood? In that main, again, they have a component called register. So it's a very lengthy hierarchy. We will design this. We will try to achieve this design along with the background, foreground, everything. Then it's very simple to understand how applications are created. That we will see in next session. Because this all you have to practice up to this. Creating component, installing Bootstrap, setting up, giving the appearance, you need to practice. Then tomorrow our target is this. Okay, in tomorrow session we are going to build this front screen of Netflix. Okay, we will learn what are the components and how to design them. Then other techniques also you will learn. Currently we learned only one technique. What is it? Adding a component manually by using which documentation? Inline documentation. We will see another documentation, what it is, code behind, how it works. Then we can create such designs. Okay, tomorrow we'll continue, right?